Hello, footy fans, and welcome back to the Chip and Chase podcast. We're here on our Wednesday to kick things off with our round 11 wrap up of Supercoach and our round 12 preview for Supercoach. So as you guys can see up on the screen here, we have my score. If you can't see it, if you're just listening on an audio platform, head over to the YouTube channel. Got the face cam going, got the visual aspect of the team and everything that we're going to be looking at up on the screen. So if you want to see that video, if you're more of a visual learner, YouTube is the place to be. So I highly encourage you guys to head over there. And for those of you who are watching on the YouTube, tuning in, thank you guys very much. As I said, we're getting a lot of support on these ones, lots of views, lots of likes, and I cannot thank you guys enough. So really do appreciate that one. But let's kick things off. Getting into our score for round 11. Very interesting round, this one. Yeah, it's a shame. We'll get into it in the team review. We had a good week. We ended up actually scoring at 1281, which is only top 18% of scores. We dropped 669 ranks down to a season rank of 5,730th. Look, so by that token, you're not thinking it's the best round. It was all good. Like, the round was really good, bar one decision. Bar two, realistically, but one was the pinnacle of what could have been essentially 1281. Like any other week, that's an insane score. I'm pretty sure the top score of this week was like 1600 though. So there were people that were scoring really well. I'm in a league with a few mates, so you're going to see a little bit more of on the Instagram and hopefully on the podcasts in the future. So if you're not following the Instagram, do tune in there. But yeah, in a league with a few of them, we're big into our footy, big into our Supercoach. All of them scored more than me this week, and it all came down to a certain decision, and that's really gutting. But again, 1281, pretty happy with the score, only dropping 669 ranks. So it's red arrows, so that's a shame. We're always wanting to be going up, but it could have been a lot worse. So let's get into how the team actually went. All right, so here is the team. We're going to run through top to bottom, hookers down to fullback, how everyone went. Harry Grant, 116 points. Love that from the King. Yeah, was just not so much a savior of my round, but in my head-to-head matchup, I just talked about, you know, being in the league with a few of my mates. One of those mates is ranked 30th overall at the moment. We're up head-to-head this week. And heading into the final couple games, I thought I had him. I thought, despite the things going against me this week, I thought with the upside players I had, I'd get him. Harry Grant scored 116. I'm like, yeah, there's no chance he can beat me now. He didn't own Harry Grant. He did end up beating me. He had a lot of Dolphins and Tigers players. Lockie Galvin, Stefano Utoikamanu, Jeremy Marshall-King, the likes. They all went really, really well. So shout out Corny for actually getting the chockies over me. And he's, yeah, absolutely killing it this year. As I said, ranked 30th overall. So massive shout out to him. But Harry Grant, 116. He almost got me the chockies in the matchup. And I could not have asked for much more of him. He also got about a 13-minute spell because the game was so blown out and they didn't want to risk him. So could have been even more for him. Jaden Brayley, didn't play him. 55 points from him. He's getting back up around that 80 minutes. I think he played in the 70s in this one, which is good. That's where we sort of wanted him for our bye rounds and just as a backup hooker. So happy with the 55 despite not playing him. The front row position, 49 from Terrell May, 48 from Josh Curran. Not ideal, but could be a lot worse. As we know, front row forwards a bit of a tough position this year. Our main front row forward, Jack DeBellin, of course, was on the bye, so we couldn't play him. Had to resort to these two. Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. Yeah, we'll just move on from that. Not much more to say. As we said, DeBellin did not play. Sam Hughes, 37. He's just going to be sitting around that 30s to 40 mark, maybe 50s every now and then. But hey, we didn't play him either. Into the second row, Angus Crichton, 62 points. Bit disappointing from Crichton, but we can't be too disappointed. Like, with everything else that he's been doing, punching out 60s when he's not scoring 100 pluses, I'm fine with it. Everybody loves a 60 score. I'm happy for the 62. And again, that was against the Sharkies, so a tough old game. Speaking of that Sharkies matchup, Britton Nicola, one of our other second rowers, only 42 points from Britton. Would have liked a little bit more, but again, you're up against the Roosters. It's all defense. And surprisingly, they didn't come his side too often. So he didn't make as many tackles as he normally would. So yeah, 42 points, you move on. 70 from Beau Fermor. He's turned from someone I was looking to sell essentially every week since I've owned him to someone I'm like, you know what? Beau Fermor's a gun. He's getting back to the last couple weeks. He's doing 18 runs a game, 180 meters, 40 tackles. He's a gun. And it's back to not even the form of before his ACL, because before his ACL, he was just scoring tries for fun. Still hasn't scored a try this season, and yet he's still punching out 70s at the moment. So I'm absolutely loving what Beau Fermor's doing, and we're going to look to keep him around probably for the entire Origin period. I like his run there. I'm pretty sure Titans play 16-19. So he'll be good to have for that. Kai Pearce-Paul, we didn't play him. He was named on the bench and then brought in to start. I knew he was brought in to start beforehand, but I didn't really want to play him over any of my starting second rowers this week. And I wasn't going to put a reserve on him, so we just let his 59 points pass. But it's good to see that he's still scoring pretty well now. A lot of people got off him. He's not exactly pod at the moment, but definitely someone I'm happy to own now that everybody's jumped off. Morgan Smithies, 47, didn't play him, and Viliami Fafita, our nuff, doesn't matter. This is one of our first errors. Luke Brooks, we end up starting him at halfback purely because of the speculation that Hines, I'm going to sneeze, so I'm going to pause this recording. And we're back. Apologies for that. Yeah, we ended up starting Luke Brooks purely because of the speculation that Hines might not be fit. You know, was he going to pass the fitness test? Was he not? We didn't really know. I wanted to be safe and lock in a halfback there. Hines, of course, got the reserve spot. But yeah, Luke Brooks, 20 points. Absolute killer. That was very early in the round, so my round got off to a really poor start with that. Wasn't feeling the best, but look, it was in the head, like it made sense to do it. I know there was cause that, yeah, Hines was going to be good to go even before I'd chosen to play Luke Brooks, but I wanted to not run that risk. In the end, if I didn't play him, I was probably only going to be putting a reserve on Kai Pearce-Paul, or would have been probably Jaden Brayley. So 35-point difference. Gets me into the 1300s. It could have been a bit of a difference, but, you know, theoretically, it made sense to me. But 20 points, yeah, very disappointing. I'm still looking to hold him. I've always wanted, as you guys know, if you tune into these ones, I've wanted to turn him into Mitchell Moses for a while when Moses came back. The word on Moses is he's not going to be back to round 14, which is tough. So I think I just hold him. Doesn't play round 13, but he plays 16, 19. His dual position, he'll probably fill in at halfback when Cherry Evans is out for Origin. What that means for their team, I'm not sure, but hopefully there's something there. I think I'll just sit him in there and set and forget him for a little bit. Nicho Hines off the bench for us, 114 points. Did not expect that high of a score against the Roosters, but yeah, he was great. 114 might have still been a little bit too much. They give Hines points for breathing. But hey, I've got him, so I can't complain too much. Dylan Brown, 70 points in my 5/8. Happy with that. He's just set and forget there. Lockie Galvin, we didn't play him this week, and he scored 79. So that was a bit of a shame. I missed out on some points there, but he was never fully in my calculations. I had the couple of Knights boys ahead of him if I was to put a reserve on someone else. So you just live and die by that. But it means he's in for a little bit more cash gen now, which is really good for us and really good for all other owners out there. Into the center wing, let's start with the other big sour note of my week. Valentine Holmes as my captain, 49 points, doubled to, 98? Yeah, 98 points. What a shame. It hurts even more because I'd locked and loaded Reece Walsh as my captain before he was an out. It's just, yeah. Like my vice captain, Greg Marju, 43 points. So I couldn't exactly loop that. Yes, I don't know. Anybody else, literally anybody in my team. The 49, besides Luke Brooks' score, there's Greg Marju, Britton Nickera, and that's it. Greg Marju, Britton Nickera, and Luke Brooks were the only players in my team to score less. Oh, and technically Josh Curran by 1 point. But 4 players, if you want to say Curran, were the only players in my entire starting 17 to score less than Valentine Holmes, and I captained him. So literally anyone else in my team, and 95 from Chans, 101 from Garrick, 88 from Ramian. Anybody else, we're laughing. But no, we trusted in the Cowboys, and we trust in Val Holmes. And I should have known, last year, Val Holmes was great for me. I held him when a lot of people sold, and he scored like 150s. But every time I captained him, he went to the poo. I'm pretty sure he got sent off or sin binned every time I captained him, and he went so low. So I should have known. If you ever see me captain Valentine Holmes, stay the fuck away from him because it's a shit show. But yeah, 49 points, doubled to 98. The killer of my week, but that's Supercoach. Yeah, you live and die by that. So we'll move on to the rest of my centre wings. 101 from Garrick. Not quite sure how he scored 101, but again, we'll take it. Jesse Ramian, 88. So this is what baffles me. Ramian had a million times better game than Ruben Garrick and scores less points. It's just it's Supercoach scoring. It's Fox League scoring, to be honest. Fox stats are atrocious, and let's just leave it there. But 101 from Garrick, beautiful. 88 from Ramian, beautiful. 43 from Greg Marju, who he brought in, not beautiful, but he was on about 10 at halftime. And then his second half, he just exploded with all of his running meters and tackle breaks and everything. So that was really good to get him up to 43. That's all just pure base power. So we can live with that. I was certain of him scoring a try. Didn't happen. But I'm happy to still own Greg Marju. Off the bench for our centre wings, we have Dominic Young's 97, who we brought in. Very happy for that. 62 from Kale Iro. Again, he's just a base stat weapon. And 106 from David Armstrong, who we ended up slapping a reserve on as well. So all three of those centre wings had the reserves. So really, really happy with those scores. 106 from Armstrong was beautiful to see. Definitely kickstarted my week after a bad opening. Into the fullback role. Now, you guys would have noticed probably if you watched last week's episode, I talked about trading Charles Nickel-Klukstad to Greg Marju or Dominic Young, either one of those guys, moving Garrick into fullback and then keeping Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. I ended up backtracking simply because, look, it's Chance. He's going well regardless. I think him at 5'8", making 40 tackles is better than DWZ on the wing at the moment, where there's no attacking stats for the Warriors. So I kept him in, and what a decision that was. Once again, Dallin didn't score a try, and he scored like 29 or 30. He's dropped heaps of cash. Chance managed a 95 in a game, which obviously, as we know, the Warriors upset the Panthers with a reserve grade team. Chance at 5'8", 95 points. Oh, I'm so in love with Charles Nickel-Klukstad. He's the second highest averaging fullback this season behind Dylan Edwards. And I've still got him. Now, what's cool as well, I don't see it happening, but I can cross my fingers, is that he's obviously played that one game at 5'8" now. He's been named at 5'8" heading into this week. They've got the bye after that, and then I think the round after, Sean Johnson's due back. And if he's not, Chanel Harris-Tavita is. But if Chance gets another win against Dolphins at 5'8", they may elect to keep him there at least for one more week until Johnson's back or whatever. And if that's the case, that's 3 games at 5'8". He's going to get dual position, and I'm going to own him this entire time. When he gets that 5'8" role, I can set and forget him as a 5'8". Now, it's a bit of a pipe dream at the moment, bit of a long shot, but I'm holding out hope. I'm crossing my fingers and toes that we can get that off, because I think Chance at 5'8" is going to be set and forget with how shit 5'8's been. If I can have Chance and Dill Brown there, and then, I don't know, Cleary when he's back from injury with Hines in the halfback role, insane. And it just frees up another fullback spot for the Guns for the run home. So let's hope for that. But again, 95 points, happy with that. And then Reece Walsh did not play, so that's a big shame. In a little bit of doubt for this week too, which is another kick in the dicks. They've got the Titans at Suncorp. I'd captain him again, but it's tough. If he's ruled out again, then he plays Origin next week. Is he a sell? Probably. Who can I get him to? Scott Drinkwater, who's not actually going that well, but he's got the Tigers this week. There's a possibility. I don't know. We'll have to have a look at that. But that is how the team tracked for round 11, which means we'll get into our team list news. As you guys know, got that up on the screen over here, so don't mind me looking over here. Let's read through all of the team list changes. For the Bulldogs, not too much going on. Jamin Salmon returns at second row, which pushes Josh Curran back to the bench, and Pawasa Farmasili out, which is probably good for people who own Pawasa because it means no more AE nightmares. I am interested in a couple Bulldogs players. Viliami Kikau hasn't been scoring very well lately, but I like the Bulldogs bye schedule. The other one is Jacob Preston. I know he's named off the bench this week, but he's got to get back to that high minute role. You'd assume pretty soon. And when he does, I really like him at a reduced price. Probably definitely not this week, but someone to look at next week in the big buy round changes. Keep in mind, guys, we do get 3 trades next week, even without a boost, because of the first buy round. So keep an eye on those guys. We'll maybe have some stats up about them in the coming weeks. But those are the only changes for the Bulldogs. For the Dragons, not much going on here either. They of course, came off the bye. Jack de Belin has been named to start at lock with Tom Eisenhuth at second row. So that's interesting, but they do have Raymond Faitala-Mariner and Luciano Leilua on the bench. I'd almost expect Leilua to start at second row, Eisenhuth to move back to lock, and Jack de Belin to come off the bench. Not really noteworthy for JDB. He scores his points no matter where he is, so just happy to have him back in my team. Ben Murdoch-Masila was the man to make way in that team. Cowboys, Tigers. Cowboys have kept the exact same team that they named last week. So that includes Braden Burns on the wing, and Viliame Vailea is still in the centres. For the Tigers, they've had to lose both centres this week. Brent Naden and Justin Olam have accepted a one-game suspension. So they've got Declan Casey, the young fella who came from the Bulldogs. He's in the centres with Josh Felaty. I believe it's Felaty. He was a Manly junior. I think he made his debut last year. There's been a lot of raps on Felaty, so I'd like to see him. I'm pretty sure he came through with all the Fainu brothers. So, yeah, I'm keen to see him get more of an extended shot. If they can find him and make him into an actual mainstay centre, that could be really, really good for the Tigers. Beyond that, Isaiah Papali'i returns from suspension. Interesting to see him at second row, though, despite before suspension playing lock forward and scoring 2 tries and being a world beater. But he's back in the second row. Justin Matamua comes in at lock forward, which I do like for the Titans. I think Matamua is a great 13. Alex Twal heads back to the bench. Sione Fainu is out, but not too much Supercoach news there. Seagulls and Storm. Tolotau Kula still at fullback. Jason Saab makes an early return from injury on the wing, which pushes... Who was the winger? Jackson Paolo out of the side. Rest of their side is the same. Nathan Brown makes his return from injury on the bench for Matt Lodge, but not too Supercoach relevant there. For the Storm, big news is that Jerome Hughes has returned a bit early from his injury as well, just in time to replace Cameron Munster, who's out, which means Hughes goes back into halfback and Tyron Wishart moves into the 5/8 role to replace Munster. Rest of their team is the exact same. Oh, except Grant Anderson has actually snagged jersey 15 on their bench. There you go. Shout out Grant Anderson. Raiders and Roosters. Raiders, there are absolutely no changes. The Roosters, Joseph Manu returns from his head knock in the centres, which means Junior Ponga drops out of the side. The other big one, which is a big shame, I was really keen on him over the Origin period, is Connor Watson. He's out with a throat injury, so it's expected 4-week out there, which means Brandon Smith starts at 9 and Sam Don Smith comes back onto the bench. Nat Butcher, that's right, sorry. Nat Butcher has also been dropped. Victor Radley moves to second row, and Nafahu White starts at lock forward. Now, I'm not sure what the go is there. I know this season White has been used more as middle forward, but predominantly from what I know, he was a bit of a back rower through juniors, and he's quite adept on the edge. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Nafahu White play at second row and Victor Radley retain his spot at lock. Not sure how relevant that is for super coaches. I don't think many people will own White, but if you own Radley, one of our pods from a couple of weeks ago, you'd prefer him at lock. So don't sell just yet. I'd probably just wait and see how that one plays out. For the Sharkies and the Panthers, Sharks once again an unchanged 17. The Panthers, they're looking pretty unchanged too. Scott Sorensen starts at second row in this one, and Luke Garner is out. Dane Laurie comes onto their bench in jersey 14. Rabbitohs and Eels, changes here for the Rabbitohs as there always are. Tane Milne comes into the centres, and Michael Cheekham also returns in the centres for... who were the players? What's his name? Isaac Thompson was dropped, so he's out. And that's the other thing. Jack Whiten moves to 5/8. Cody Walker to halfback, and Dion Teapau, or apologies, I don't know how to pronounce it. He's out of the side. I love this for the Rabbitohs. I'm not sure how Supercoach relevant it will be. I think it makes them a better side. I've always thought Jack Whiten's best position is 5/8. I know a lot of people are in complete opposite boats. I think he's a great centre. He's been playing really good there this year, but I like his hands on the ball a bit more. I think Cody Walker leading them around the park even if his kicking game isn't, an Adam Reynolds or a typical halfbacks, just the attacking threat that these two have, I'm really excited to see them in the halves. A spine of Latrell Mitchell, Jack White, and Cody Walker, Damien Cook, despite anybody else around that team, that's exciting. That's terrifying to see as a opposition. Their forward pack is the same. Jacob Host comes into the second row. I can't remember if he played there last week, but regardless, he's here this week. Kean Kaloa-Matangi is actually starting lock forward, and Saliva Havili drops back to the bench. So that's quite interesting there. I don't know what their obsession is with keeping Jai Arrow at second row, but they've done it. For the Eels, despite the sacking of Brad Arthur, they've named an almost unchanged 17. Ryan Madison returns at second row, with Bryce Cartwright dropping to the bench. And Luca Moretti, I think, was the man to make way from their side. But besides that, pretty regular. Blaize Talangi still at fullback for them as well. Broncos, they've named Reece Walsh, which is what we want. Whether that comes out, we'll have to wait and see. Josiah Karapani stays in the centres. Selwyn Cobbo moves to the centres as well. And it's Katoni Staggs who is making way with an injury. Not sure how long that will sideline him for. The rest of their team pretty good. Payne Haas miraculously recovered from that ankle injury last week. So he's still at front row forward. And Billy Walters returns at hooker. Tyson Smoothy to the bench. And Blake Moser out of the team. The Titans, Tom Weaver's actually been named at halfback this week. He played there last week. But the big one, the massive one for the Titans is my preseason love affair. Tony Francis has been named to make his NRL debut on the wing. I love this. I don't know if he gets an extended shot there. He's only in because Aaron Schopp has departed to Manly, which means Jojo Fafita moves into the centres and Tony Francis gets onto the wing. I think with their injuries at the moment, and I think with the way he's going to play because he's a weapon, he might get an extended shot there. I'm so excited to see Tony Francis playing some footy. Very much the Greg Marju mould. Nuggety, strong, lots of runs, lots of meters. I'm really excited to see Tony Francis. Shame they've got the Broncos, but I think it's a good idea to see how he fares. If he can go out there, do his meters, not make any errors, then against the Broncos, I think that'll mean the world to the Titans, and he'll earn his spot for another couple of weeks. For the rest of their team, Josiah Pahulu, the young fella, gets a start at front row forward with Jamin Jolliffe out of the team with an injury. Beyond that, not too much of note. The Warriors, there's a couple ins and outs here. Rocco Berry comes back into the centres for Ali Leatawa, who is out with an ankle injury. Freddie Lussick returns at hooker in a straight swap for Wade Egan, who failed a concussion. What else have we got? Marata Niokore returns on the bench for them as well. Chance Nickel-Cook starts still at 5'8". Tane Torpiki at fullback. For the Dolphins, what is going on here? Not a whole lot. Max Plath returns at lock forward. Kenny Bromwich goes to the bench, and Kirk Donahue drops out of the side. And that is all of the team list changes for round 12 of the NRL season. So that means we move into trade talks. Now, as you guys should be well aware nowadays, trade talks starts with our Instagram post. Now, our Instagram post is outlining 3 pod players, and if you don't know what pod is, that is point of difference. So 3 players that are low ownership that can potentially kickstart your season or help move you up the rankings that we look at every week. 3 players that you could potentially bring in to help you along the track. So let's get into that right now. If you guys aren't following Chip and Chase podcast on Instagram, you can see it right there. This is the reason to do it. So head over there and follow us on Instagram. But yes, best buys, round 12, point of difference players. You can see the 3 players there. I'm going to tick through them. You can look through all the stats, and I'm going to read through what I've written on the right-hand side here. So our first point of difference player, Cody Nikorima. We're almost finished with our Dolphins pod players, but before we have to talk about Nikorima. Dual position, plays all major buy rounds, 2% ownership, and averaging 59 points in 80-minute games this season. There's really not much more I can say than what's displayed to you guys in the post. With Dylan Brown now available at halfback, Cody could be the player we've been sleeping on for our halves this season. I'm all for it. I'm not going to do it myself. I could, but we'll get to my trades in a bit. But I'm very big on Cody Nikorima. The dual makes it a little bit more appealing as well. If you can move, if like you have other options at your halves positions, or if you went early on Walker or whatnot, Cody Nikorima can play fullback. So if you want to, sell a center winger or a fullback, put him in there, move Garrick around. There's a lot of options to play around with his dual position. I think he's going to be incredible to have for the bye rounds, especially in a position that's been very, very tough. 5'8", there's only been really Dill Brown this year that's been consistently good, and even Dill Brown's early round scores were just sort of So Cody Nikorima, I think, is a great, great shout. We'll move into our second player, Latrell Mitchell. Once again, guys, if you want to just read through the the stats that are on the screen, and I'm going a bit too fast, you can just pause the video or pause the podcast. If you're listening to the podcast and audio platform, you can see these on the Instagram, and that's why you're going to need to follow the Instagram. Anyway, Latrell Mitchell, our second player. I know we are all trying to avoid Bunnies players, which is exactly why now is the perfect time to get on Latrell. He's having to do absolutely everything for the Rabbitohs at the moment, so he is scoring very well. He has reportedly made himself unavailable for Origin this year, which means he provides some really good cover over the bye period, and with a game against an Eels side who just conceded 48 points and sacked their coach, I expect Latrell to go very big this week. Don't ask me how you guys get him in, but if you can find a way, then you'll reap the rewards from it. Yeah, look, I'm not going to jump on Latrell, not with the fullbacks available that I have. I'm very happy with it. But again, this is pod. This is to try and get you guys to do something that not everybody else is doing. I think Latrell's a great idea. Now, he doesn't play round 13. But once again, I encourage you guys to have a look through your team, count up your players. I think you only need 13 players for the major bye rounds. So you only need 13 players next week. I think Latrell Mitchell, you can buy him now for this Parramatta game, which I think he goes huge. He doesn't play, the bye round, but I think he'll be covered for that regardless. Then he goes into a game against the Titans, which is the other struggling team. He could go really well there. Even against Broncos and Manly, I expect Latrell to be doing absolutely everything for this Rabbitohs side. So I'm all for it. If he does end up getting picked for Origin, despite allegedly making himself unavailable, I think the Rabbitohs are in a position that there's no resting, and I don't think Latrell will want to be rested. I think he will come back and play every other game as well. So I don't see too much risk in it. And, it can potentially play off. He's been playing really well the past couple of weeks from a Supercoach perspective. So, yeah, it could be a really good time to jump on Latrell Mitchell. Last but not least, Tyron Wishart. Hear me out, guys. The most rogue pick of the bunch this week is by far Tyron Wishart. Yeah, he's the one who caught my eye the most. With the injury to Cameron Munster sidelining him for 8 weeks, Wishart has an extended run in the halves for Melbourne, and from what I've seen so far, he's really passing the eye test. His 3-round average included in the post is from his 80-minute games this year. Yet he's priced at sub 400k. The duel is certainly handy as well to play around with the aforementioned Dill Brown duel. It's definitely out there, but that's what being a pod player is all about. Of all the 3 players I've looked at or listed in this, Tyron Wishart has been the one I wanted to buy the most. Just from watching Melbourne games, he looks really, really good. I think people just sit here and go, he's a utility player, he's a hooker. You never know when he's in or out. Whenever he gets a shot, he kills it. Think of finals last year against the Roosters, was it? Or maybe the week before, when he came out with that solo try. He does not buckle under pressure. If he actually got an extended shot in the halves or in any position in the NRL, I reckon he'd kill it. It's almost a shame he's just as a utility for Melbourne. But I'm really excited to see him in this 8-week span with no Cameron Munster. Jonah Pezzett also injured for the season with an ACL. So there's no real threats of anyone taking that position from Tyron Wishart. And I don't think anybody would anyway, because I think he's going to go really well. What that means for Supercoach, I'm not sure. His most recent game was a 40-point game, which isn't great, but it's not abysmal. Again, there was no real attacking stats in that. I don't know. From what I'm seeing of Tyron Wishart, I really, really like him. So we've included him in this post. Again, doesn't play next week, doesn't play the bye round. So you don't have to get on him, but he's got a -7 break even, so it could be a good opportunity to jump on. Comes up against Manly, who played well against the Broncos, but can they back it up? We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be the Battle of Brookvale. I'm quite big on Tyron Wishart this year, so there's that. But that concludes our 3-pod players: Tyron Wishart, Latrell Mitchell, Cody Nikorima. So once again, that's all up on the Instagram. If you guys aren't following the Instagram, please go and do so. Go show that some love. Comment down who you think is a nice little pod option, or message me directly on there. It's a good way to reach out and we can interact on there. Let's get into my trades of the week, though. You know what? Before we do that, let's look at the most traded in. Again, we're just looking at players not in my team. Blaize Talangi is probably spearheading. Is that all coaches? Teams in the leagues, blah, blah, blah. There you go. Yeah, Blaize Talangi probably spearheading most trades this week. I can see why. -68 break even. He's coming off 2 insane scores at fullback. He probably gets another couple weeks there. He will play next week, the bye round as well. They're versus the Rabbitohs this week. I know I said the Rabbitohs will be up for it, and I think Latrell will be. Excuse me. I think Latrell will have a good game. I also think Blaize Talangi and the Eels should get a few points in on the Rabbitohs regardless. Yeah, at 410k, you can downgrade someone. It's a really good opportunity to jump on that, make that cash. I know it's sometimes hard to, you're probably a bit stubborn and you've owned Talangi already this season, like myself, and you don't want to jump on him again because it's like, well, I should just kept him. Look, you have to swallow your pride sometimes and just go on them. I really rate him. I think Gutherson's back round 14, so you only get 2 weeks, but I think with the way he's playing, he probably keeps fullback. If he doesn't, and Gutho does go to fullback, I think Talangi's form in general means he plays at centre. Like, I think he definitely has a spot in their side from now on, especially because they're still trying to re-sign him. So they want to give him that extended shot and be like, look, even with Gutho back, we believe in you. We're going to play you. Please re-sign with us. So I like Blaize Talangi as a buy option, definitely. Suafa-Longo is next. I'm not too big on this anymore. We're all keen on Suafa-Longo. Just everybody is. He's an absolute freak. He scored 90 last round, which is really good. -4 break even. He's centre wing fullback dual. He's cheaper than Talangi. It's actually not that bad. I'm growing on it. The problem is I'm pretty sure Pappenhausen's back in 2 weeks. And as we mentioned, the Storm don't play round 13. So if you're only getting him this week and then Pappenhausen's back, you know, in a couple weeks, you're getting 1 game. I'm not sure. There's a chance he can keep a spot on the wing. It's all a bit of wait and see. It's not the worst trading option. It's not for me, though. Eliesa Katoa is the next most traded in, not in my team. Yes, big on that. Again, doesn't play next week, but good game against Manly this week. He's at a good price, 23 break even, so he's going to go up a little bit as well. I'm all for it. He'll be set and forget for the season. And again, I like the Storm's bye run. They only play 16 of the major bye rounds, so as in round 16, but they play 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So they cover like essentially, and 20, I think. So they cover all of the mini bye rounds as well. I think they're going to be quite important to have over that period. A lot of people forget about the smaller bye rounds, but they can be even more deadly, to be honest. So Eliesa Katoa, love that. KO Weeks, next most traded in. I don't hate it because he's fullback 5/8 dual, pretty cheap, and -28 break even. People are looking to sell some 5/8s and stuff at the moment. Look, it's good money. They do play next week as well, so it's a buy round player if you're struggling for numbers. I don't know when Fogarty's actually due back. I don't think it's for another few weeks yet, so he could still get a few more weeks there. Yeah, jump on at your own will, but it's an option, that's for sure. Joey Manu, the next most. He's at 824,000, so very expensive is Joey Manu, but there's a reason for it. He's killing it. He does play this week, obviously. He plays next week, the bye round. Everybody thinks Edwards is going to get picked for Origin. I really think Tedesco is getting picked for Origin, which means Joseph Manu gets the fullback role. And we know what Manu does at fullback. It's absolutely terrifying. So I love him as a purchase. Even if Tedesco doesn't get picked and he stays at fullback and Manu stays at center, He's playing so good at center regardless. So yes, he's expensive, but yeah, if you're bringing him in, there's little risk to it. Most traded out, Luke Brooks. Yeah, fair enough. Valentine Holmes, people are trading him out. I don't hate it. He's got a 97 break even, and he's about to go into Origin. But he's got the Tigers this week, so I'm going to hold one more week, maybe sell him next week. Kai Paul, people are still selling. I don't really know why. He plays the bye round. He scored 59. He's on the bye this week. Maybe that's why, but yeah, I don't see a reason. Morgan Smithies, we've talked about all season. I don't see a reason. And Sam Hughes, that's fine if you can move him on to someone good. So let's look at my trades. And let's look at captain options. No, yeah, so I'm not trading. I've toyed around with a lot. We mentioned Tyron Wishart. I think Galvin's got some more money to make, 13 break even, so I'm happy to keep him in. I don't really want to use a trade. I need to save trades at some point. I think I've only saved like 1 or 2 this season. Obviously didn't trade after like the first couple rounds, but then ever since then I've used a lot. I've still got 2 boosts left, but I haven't traded much. I haven't, saved many trades. So I'm happy with where the team's at. There are players and areas I can improve. I'd love to get to an Adam Fanua-Blake next week. But as we said, next week we get 3 trades. So if I use all 3 trades next week to make something happen, I really want Adam Fanua-Blake. Oh, no, Adam Fanua-Blake doesn't play the first bye round. So I can actually save up. I can wait a couple of weeks on Adam Fanua-Blake. He should drop a bit of price after his like 30 score as well. So who do I actually need for the bye rounds? Well, let's count numbers. We mentioned to you guys, do this with me. We're going to count numbers. So I'll read through all the teams for you guys that are playing next week. We have Eels, Sharks, Knights, Bulldogs, Panthers, Dragons, Dolphins, Raiders, Roosters, Cowboys. So in terms of those teams, the players I have that are going to be playing: Jaden Brayley, Terrell May, Josh Curran, Jack DeBellin, Sam Hughes. Britton Nickera is 6. Crichton does play for the Roosters, but I'm certain he'll play Origin, so I'm not going to count him. So Nickera 6. 7 is Kite Pierce-Paul. 8 is Morgan Smithies. I don't have a halfback next week, but that's fine. 9 is Dylan Brown. Did the Tigers play? No. So 9 Dylan Brown. 10 Jesse Ramian. 11 Dom Young. 12 Kale Ero. 13 Greg Marju, 14 David Armstrong, and that's all I've got. So 14 means I'm already above that 13 threshold. So I don't need to go too hard. If I am to bring in someone, it's definitely going to be someone that can cover the rest of them, like a Dolphins player. But I don't know where I go from here. So I don't want to rush and make any trades. If I was to make trades this week, it's purely to get money for next week. But like if I went Luke Brooks to Tyron Wishart, I only free up like 60, 80K or something. So there's not much going on there. Yeah, I'm not keen on Josh Curran anymore. But let's have a look at any other options. I'm not going to do it this week, don't worry. But yeah, there's not many front row options that are low in price. Even if I moved Fafita up, and I looked at a second row option. Is there a low price one that would be good? Not really much that's sticking out to me. Connor Watson, if only he wasn't injured. Yeah, so there's not too much sticking out to me. I am sort of keen on... I like Dylan Walker, but again, doesn't play next week for the bye round, so you can definitely wait a week. But I do like the 5/8 second row duel, 500K. He's named at lock forward again. I think he's going to be doing a lot for the Warriors. Hylam Lukey, 52 points. He's 380K. Break even of 27. Maybe I do it. Cowboys do play the bye round. I don't really want to get rid of Josh Curran because he plays the bye round as well. But I'm also not like, I think Curran's minutes and his performance, like his point scoring, sort of on borrowed time. So I like Hylam Lukey. Frees up just under 200K for another playing player. I don't mind it. I could wait a week though, but they have Tigers this week. Look, I don't want to trade, so I'm not going to. It's a forced trade. It does free up cash. I may do it if you guys as you guys know, if you're not following the Instagram, this is why, because if I do make those trades late in the week, it'll be up on the Instagram and I'll let you guys know. But I think I'm not making trades this week. If I do, it'll be something around getting Highland Lukey in. It could be next week, maybe. Next time, baby. Angus Crichton at his peak price. He's actually about to lose knowing him, he'll hit that against the Raiders, respectfully. I'm very tempted on trading Crichton if he's named for Origin next week and just banking all that money. So that's where we'll look to make moves next week, probably. But for this week, we're not going to make trades. So let's look at Sit v starts. This is a tough week because of, injuries for everybody. Newcastle plays on the bye. It's a tough little week. I think I'll be right to cover it, but I know there's a few out there that are struggling to cover it. So maybe we can, if we're in a similar boat, let's look at what we can do. So for me, obviously, Jack DeBellin has to play this week because he's my king. I will just bring him in for Josh Curran. I don't know. My starting second rows are fine. Harry Grant's fine. Luke Brooks is not playing. Who have they got? Storm. God, no. Sorry, Luke Brooks. You are gone. Dylan Brown, yes, I'm playing him. Galvin, who have the Tigers got? Cowboys. It's an option, definitely an option. Greg Marju is not playing, obviously. David Armstrong is not playing. So let's have a look at some stuff. Reece Walsh will come in. We will put the captain on him for now. We'll put a reserve on Charles Nickel-Klukstad. We have to take a reserve off Greg Marju because, well, he's on the bye. So the options for my reserves are Charles Nickel-Klukstad and Kale Iro are lock and loaded. They're getting 2 reserves. Now, I have 2 left to spread out across these playing players. I can go Josh Curran. I'm not going Sam Hughes, so we're not going to include that. But Josh Curran, Morgan Smithies, Luke Brooks, Lachlan Galvin. I think out of those players, Galvin I like the most. So now we have 1 more. If you guys are in a similar boat, who is your last reserve going on to? Is it a Luke Brooks against the Storm, a Morgan Smithies against the Roosters, but again, it doesn't really matter who Smithies up against, he'll do the same thing, or Josh Curran against the Dragons? I think it's going to have to be Curran. He has a little bit more attacking upside than Morgan Smithies. Dragons aren't the best defensive team. Then again, it doesn't matter. Yeah, the Raiders are up against the Roosters, so there's no attacking upside for Smithies, unfortunately. So I'm happy to play Curran this week. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of owning him at the moment. 76 break even, he'll drop a little bit more. He's been really good for me. I think I'll set and forget for now. He'll play next week's bye round, which will be important. And then we'll look and reassess after that. But my reserves this week, we have Charles Nickel-Klukstad, Kale Iro, Lachlan Galvin, and Josh Curran. And my starting side is as follows: Harry Grant at hooker, Jack DeBellin and Terrell May in the front row, Angus Crichton, Britton Nicola, and Beau Fermor in the second row. Nico Hines is my halfback. Dylan Brown is my 5'8". Dominic Young, Ruben Garrick, Jesse Ramian, and Valentine Holmes are my centre wings. And Reece Walsh is my starting fullback and my captain. Well, you know what? That's a good segue. Let's get into captains. Now, looking at every game this week, we'll just go through all of them and talk about captain options from every game from the start to the finish. Bulldogs, Dragons, are there captain options in this game? Not really. If you own a Zach Lomax, there's potential, but for a VC option, not for a captain, obviously. But there is a potential option there. Not something I'd look towards, and I don't own Zach Lomax anyway. Next game, Cowboys, Tigers. Valentine Holmes and Scott Drinkwater as VC options, appealing. Yeah, okay, Val, you can have a VC again. If you let me down, I'm going to bash you. Yeah, so North Queensland, Cowboys, Tigers. Yeah, you're looking at a Val Holmes or a Scott Drinkwater VC. I wouldn't be captaining that early into the round regardless. The thing with if you're doing Scott Drinkwater VC, if you own someone like Reece Walsh, you can't captain Reece Walsh late in the game, late in the round, sorry. I'd prefer to captain Reece Walsh, but also we aren't fully sure if he's going to play, so it might be safer to put the VC on Scott Drinkwater, because if you own both and you see Walsh and you VC, and you put a reserve on Drinkwater, if Walsh is ruled out late in the round, you can't swap him to another fullback because your, reserve fullback Drinkwater has already played. So think about that stuff. I'm in a good spot where we'll have to see. If Walsh wasn't to play, if he was ruled out Saturday, we'll find out. If he's ruled out early Saturday, I can put the reserve on Morgan Smithies. If he's ruled out any later, I'm lucky because Charles Klukstad is the final game of the round, so I can start him, but I wouldn't have any reserve options from then on anyway. So I'd just be copying an AE, but that's all right. We can work that. The other thing is if Valentine Holmes goes crazy and Reece Walsh does end up dropping out, then he can just be in my loop anyway. But yeah, just something to think about. I would be looking to VC players instead of captaining Walsh, because if Walsh is, I'd be looking to VC fullbacks that aren't Reece Walsh instead of captaining Walsh, because if Walsh does drop out, you can't swap that. Regardless, we'll move into the next game. Seagulls, Storm. Wouldn't look to captain anyone in this one. Jerome Hughes is one of the better scorers. I just think Manly were up for it last week against the Broncos. They might do it again. And there's not too much upside to Jerome Hughes. Seagulls, Ruben Garrick did score 101 against the Broncos. He could do it again against the Storm. I'm not going to be looking at it, though. And then we have Raiders up against the Roosters. Definitely options for Dominic Young or James Tedesco here. I actually really like that. Even Angus Crichton is a very safe captain option. I like. So that's something to look at. That's the early Saturday game. So yeah, I like Angus Crichton, Dominic Young. And if you're doing a Dominic Young, I think it's still early enough in the round to VC. Because, there's a chance that he scores 30. I don't think so because of the way that the Roosters are attacking this year and they favour his right-hand side. But VC's safer. Otherwise, captaining James Tedesco and Angus Crichton, I like that. So VC Dominic Young is an option, but captaining Tedesco and Crichton are also options. Sharks, Panthers are next. Nico Hines could just be set and forget a captain every single week with the way he's playing. So there's always that. There's no Panthers players I'd look to, even with Dylan Edwards. I think the Sharks are a really good football side at the moment. I know Penrith will be looking to bounce back. I just don't think they can actually get it done without Cleary against this Sharks side, but we'll have to see. It's going to be game of the round for sure, but I like Nico Hines in that one. Beyond that, Rabbitohs, Eels, there's probably no one you own in those games to captain. If you do own Latrell, I really love it as a late VC pod option. If you own any Eels players, you could captain the Dylan Brown, but I wouldn't. So yeah, Latrell Mitchell I like as a pod play. Broncos, Titans, we've mentioned Reece Walsh. If he is going to play that game, I'm captaining him. Suncorp Stadium against the Titans, I'm all for it. And lastly, Warriors, Dolphins. I don't think there's anyone in that you want to captain. He could do a hammer. Who knows? Based on how the Warriors played last week against the Panthers, maybe not. And also this one is in New Zealand, so they might be up for it. They're a very hard team to get a read on at the moment. So I'd be sticking clear of any player in that, even Warriors players as well. So those are the captain options. We are going to... I'm almost convincing myself on Angus Crichton now. I think I might do it, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to stay with the captain on Reece Walsh at the moment because I think he's the best option if he does play. But if Valentine Holmes goes low against the Tigers, I'm going to put it on Angus Crichton to be safe. If he goes decently high, like I'm talking 80 plus, I'm going to keep it on Reece Walsh because even if Reece Walsh is ruled out later, then I still get the doubled Valentine Holmes score. So that's my play at the moment. So we've got Valentine Holmes vice captain, Reece Walsh captain, but that could change if Valentine Holmes goes low in the Friday game against the Tigers. I will switch the captain onto Angus Crichton. But again, I'll be letting you guys know on Instagram. So that's your reason to follow me. That's at Chip and Chase Podcast. So that is the captains. That is the trades. That's the sit v starts done, which means we're done and dusted here, guys. Once again, a massive sincere thank you to all of you who tune in, whether it's on the audio platforms or it's on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. We're getting a lot of people reach out as well, getting a lot of contact. I really do appreciate it. If you've got questions, if you've got anything, let me know, or just things that you want to know or you want to hear in podcasts, or if you want to see in posts on the Instagram. We are working quite hard on the Instagram at the moment for some new posts. We'll get one out tomorrow on the Thursday, which will be a new sort of series we'll be keeping going on the Instagram. But whatever you guys want to see, let me know, because we can make that a reality, hopefully. But that one will wrap us up here. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.